If we are doers, if we can do anything that comes our way, let's actually put the decision-making closer to people so that we can go faster.
Hi, Carol.
Christoph.
Great to see you.
We're delighted to have you here. Come on in.
Carol, it's so great to be here. Explain to us where we are.
We're at Intergrad, and this is where we train all of our UPSers on safe driving practices. We put thousands of UPSers through this training program every year, and I'm proud of it because our safety statistics are best in the world.
Everyone in the US knows and loves UPS. It's an iconic company. It's also well known around the world. Can you share some surprising facts with us about UPS?
We were founded in 1907 by an entrepreneur whose name was Jim Casey. He was 18 years old at the time, and he took out a $100 loan, and he and a buddy started delivering packages on bicycles. So once they moved away from bicycles to cars, well, it was the early 1900s. They were driving on dirt roads, and the cars were getting dirty. So one of the leaders said, hey, let's paint the cars brown because it will cover up the grime. So we love brown. Now our package cars are brown, our uniforms are brown, we all bleed brown.
You got announced as CEO of UPS in March 2020, and then COVID hit the world and where the pandemic changed how we all worked. Tell us about some of your shaping moments of your tenure.
Well, Christoph, I've had many shaping moments, but I'll talk about two. The first, to your point, was when I was announced as the incoming CEO, and a week later, the world shut down. And yet, UPSers were essential employees. We knew that we needed to continue to get essential goods to people as they were sheltering in place around the world. And it was utter chaos. Because the first order of business was keeping our people safe. During the midst of COVID craziness, we said, let's declare what our purpose is because it will be a rallying cry for the people who are working. And so we landed on our purpose, which is moving our world forward by delivering what matters. And I love that because you can unpack it in so many different ways. It's not just about moving goods, it's about doing good too. And what Peter Drucker said, long time ago, he says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And we saw that. That strategy didn't matter so much. It was the culture that powered us through. The next moment that was really scary, but where I learned a whole lot, was in 2023. Our Teamster contract came up for renewal, and we employ more Teamsters than any company on the planet. And as we started this contract negotiation, our objectives were not that far apart. So we were moving the negotiation and making some very good progress until one weekend. They wouldn't return our calls. They wouldn't return our texts. Instead, Teamster leadership went on the media circuit to try to negotiate the contract in the airwaves. And I received a telephone call from Nancy Pelosi. She said, I'm calling to see if I can help. I said, well, you could call them. Ask them to come back to the table, because if they come back to the table, I am convinced we can get a deal. So she said, all right. And they came back to the table, and we got a deal. And we avoided a work stoppage. Our customers were concerned that maybe there would be a work stoppage. So our customers diverted volume from us. So getting at that contract, a handshake deal, was critically important so we could start to win the volume back, which we have done. But the impact of all of this was really dramatic to our company. Because you see, with volume leaving our company got smaller. It was tough.
Well, and the cost was going to go up.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
We have a new contract, costs go up, volume comes down. It's like, whoa, this is not the equation that we expected or wanted. But the cool thing about it is that we're coming out of it. We are coming out of it, and we're going to be stronger as a result.
Most incoming CEOs are overwhelmed with all the things they need to do in their first 100 days or first 6 months. And on top of that, you were a sensation, so to say, at UPS because you were the first outsider and also the first woman who became CEO of UPS. How did you prioritize? How did you navigate through that incredible amount of challenge?
When I actually took the CEO job, I grabbed the executive leadership team and we went to my farm. And in my barn, we sat and talked about how we were going to work together as a team. The behaviors that we would model, the behaviors that we wouldn't model. We agreed on 5 key principles that were important and would never change. Everything else is under review. We took a large conference room and we put up every initiative on the walls around the conference room. I said, put the green dots on the initiatives that should stay and the red dots on the initiatives that we should kill. So clearly the red dots were easy to stop working on. The no dots were easy too, because there was no emotion around the no dots. So we narrowed our focus on the initiatives that were going to drive the results that we wanted to see. And we also zoomed out and took a look at our portfolio and said, all right, this portfolio needs some tweaking. How are we going to really create value? So we landed on something called better, not bigger, where we said we will get better. We're going to get better. We will be more productive with the assets that we own. And we don't necessarily have to be big. So we focus on the segments of the opportunity that valued our end-to-end network.
And coming back to this point that you became CEO, but the company didn't really know you too much. How did you play that in your early months?
Well, lots of folks were working from home. I was in the office every day. And people started to get to know me. And I do think I had an advantage because I had been on the board. So I had a deep appreciation for our culture. And I made sure people understood that, because I do.
Many CEOs think of culture as something fluffy. In fact, it is something very precise. It's something measurable. It's something manageable. How did you go about that?
It is a get-it-done culture. It's also a culture of incredible responsibility. Here's what you hear UPSers say a lot. Leave it with me, consider it done. I respect that, right? So I wanted to make sure that the culture felt empowered. Because candidly, we had gotten a little bureaucratic. This happens to these old companies, right? So
it also happens to younger companies, I can confirm. So
it happens, and bureaucracy is death.
Yeah.
And so when I understood our can-do attitude, I'm like, there are some things getting in the way of can-do. For example, we had lots of committees. If we are doers, if we can do anything that comes our way, let's kill the committees and actually put the decision-making closer to people so that we can go fast. So that was a really important thing culturally to change. The other thing that we changed culturally was just authenticity. We're super proud of our brand standards. We're super proud of that. But we had over-indexed on what really mattered. So, for example, if you were African-American, you could not have natural hair. If you were a male, you could not have facial hair. And our tattoo policy was more restrictive than the U.S. Army. So I'm like, you know what? We can let people bring in their real, genuine, authentic self.
If you look forward into UPS's future, what excites you for the company?
Well, I'm excited that because of our ability to deliver those COVID-19 vaccines so effectively, we legitimized our right to be in healthcare logistics. When I started with the company, our healthcare logistics business was around $6 billion. Last year, around $10 billion. We're going to double that by 2026. And as we look forward, there's so much goodness ahead.
I think it's wonderful to hear about your aspirations for UPS and your optimism. I think you have all reason for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Christoph. It was a joy.